Good evening. The local government election fever is gripping South Africa. I'm Aldrin Simpier and welcome to our new program, Elections 360 Degrees. We bring you analysis and highlights from the campaign trails. Here we also give you a full circle view of what politicians are promising and what the electorate are saying about the continued promises. We also speak to our reporters who have been out and about following politicians as they canvassed for your vote. On our show tonight, we also speak to Makauta, Kingwanyana wako Everton, and she has a party called Batung. That's what's coming up on the show. Political parties were out in full force as usual. Our SABC News political reporters were also there to capture the campaign trail.
I'm just going to try bring in the Deputy President of the ANC. Deputy President Mabuza, you are live on the SABC. How is the campaign of the ANC going, Deputy President?
Going very well. Very good. People are enthusiastic. They want to go and vote.
There is a tall gentleman there. His name is Bosman Grobler. He's the mayoral candidate for this municipality, Steve, Tshwete local municipality. John stays in here actually on our screen as well. There is Jane Sithole. She is the provincial leader of the DA here in Mpumalanga. Quite a lot of jubilation, Onati, I can tell you.
Amanda, Viva, EFF, Viva! Pata, EFF, Pata!
You right here from Avalon Cemetery at the Heroes Acre, where the PAC has saw it fit to come and start at the burial site of, one of their struggles icon, or those who have fallen during apartheid.
This dumping site is filled with water often, and there are children that do fall and as a result risk their lives. They speak about this street. I'm just going to ask my colleague if we can just walk and show you this street that is not in the best condition.
We're coming to you from Freedom Square here in Gwangwa, where the leader of the Gwangwa Party of South Africa has just launched the party's manifesto.
You are a young man whose vibrant style is on point. Are you voting? What do you know about the 2021 elections?
Sure, I'm so glad we're actually speaking about this. I am a huge advocate for young people voting.
And remember, this evening we're also asking you, with just 2 weeks left to the local government elections, how have different political brands persuaded you to vote for them? That is what we are asking you this evening. Please do send through those tweets using the hashtag Elections360 and the hashtag SABC News. So with the local government elections on its way, the community of Everton has expressed dissatisfaction about the current state of the township. Everton is one of the oldest townships where Enoch Sontonga, the composer of Nkosi Sikelel Africa and the first female black scientist, Charlotte Maxeke, once lived. But so many years on, Everton still struggling with service delivery, electricity, water and sanitation, as well as road infrastructure, just some of the challenges that residents say they've worsened over the past 5 years. Everton is run by the Mfuleni local municipality, which remains under administration following years of financial woes. Journalist Nosipho Mncube, as well as Anke Nothnagel and video journalist Vanessa Kwinana visited the township and filed this insert.
You can't allow this area to be in the shape it is and complain about money. Money can be a problem that will stop us from developing and providing service to the people of this area. Everton has history. This area has contributed, it must receive service.
2016 is just yesterday, my sister. They've been making promises since from 1994. And none of the promises have been, attained.
In the past 5 years, Residents of one of the country's oldest townships believe that their living conditions have only worsened. Everton Township carries a rich history as one of the townships affected by political unrest during the apartheid era. 27 years later, the township's post-apartheid struggles have taken a different form. The extent of the community's plight, which has widely been covered in the past years, recently resurfaced when images of potholes, now dubbed as pothole pools, made the rounds on social media. The roads, which were initially in a bad condition, were made much worse by some members of the community as an attempt to draw attention to the issue.
Along where it's supposed to be walkways, cars are now moving where the community or pedestrians should be moving. So they've decided to dig trenches so that municipality, to draw the attention of the municipality to attend to this road.
Khatebe is independently contesting for several wards within the municipality.
Our reason to be here is Community Solidarity Association. You know, we are born with this solidarity spirit. We are in solidarity with the people of this area to say the conditions that they are living under are definitely show inhuman condition. What we have done as the community of Mfuleni, we are to blame ourselves. We do not have leadership in the municipality. We are led by followers, people that are supposed to be following, but we gave them power to lead us. But we have learned from that. 2021, 1st November, we are going to erase or rectify the mistakes that we have done for the past 27 years.
When asked about their thoughts on Khatebe's movement, there seemed to be a sense of indifference from some community members. Instead, one name frequently comes up. 28-year-old Kambule garnered the support of residents after bringing some tangible change.
The lack of services in the area have affected my community at large very severely. For the past 10 years, we've been suffering with such road infrastructure, and we have dumping places as well. Not so long, we were suffering with electricity problems. We had to take it upon ourselves to request ESCOM to make amends so they could be able to reconnect my people with power. As we speak, we have 2 powers reconnected within Extension 7A and Extension 7B. We have 2 transformers that are pending which need to be installed in the area without the presence of any political party.
She says, Simpiwe has assisted us greatly and we are grateful for him. We have seen a lot of change because of him. Things we never thought were attainable were achieved because of Simpiwe. We also noticed that the help we were relying on from leadership can be achieved without them. They fail us, but we are able to do things by ourselves. Kambule insists change is possible without the help of politicians.
Are we supposed to give them power again to manipulate us and use us, give us empty promises as well? We have to stand out from now on.
Other wards in the area face similar issues with less support. In Ward 19, residents have lived without electricity for months. The community resorted to protests. As a result, the only available clinic in the neighborhood closed down.
We've been trying to contact a councillor.
He says, we have been trying to contact our councillor who has been making empty promises. He promised us that David Makura will be visiting the area day before yesterday. He did not come. He then promised us that he will visit us yesterday. Again, he was a no-show. We went to the councillor's home, pleading with him to meet us. He does not want to meet us. We want him out.
And then I councillor Saifun is writing.
Just a few minutes away in the same ward, issues of water and sanitation as well as electricity. Roads are filled with sewage, which disrupts the flow of traffic and affects children from a nearby school. The current state of the Everton Township has fueled mistrust. Many community members say they won't cast a vote at this year's elections. Others say they may consider their options. The outcome of their decisions will only be known in almost 2 weeks when the numbers are tallied in what is shaping up to be the most unpredictable municipal elections. Nasipho Mncube, SABC News, Everton.
And we're now joined by the journalists who brought us this story in Everton, Nosipho Mncube as well as Uncle Nothenachel, to speak to us about their experience as young journalists covering the local government elections for the first time. Nosipho, let's start off with you. So you guys drove all the way to Everton. For you personally, as Nosipho Mncube, what was the thing that really struck you when you got to the township?
Good evening to you, Aldrin, as well as our viewers. So my visit to Everton wouldn't have been the first at the time that we went there. I had joined the SABC around 2018 during my internship program. And so when we were assigned to do some of the stories, a lot of the service delivery stories that I've covered were in Everton. So for me, it was quite a shock to see the state it was in recently, especially because I thought there would be a little more change compared to the last time I'd visited it. But if in actual fact, I think it's gotten pretty much worse than the last time I was there.
Mm-hmm. And Anka, for you?
Good evening, Aldrin and our viewers. For me, it was shocking to see the challenges these people have to face daily, the circumstances they have to live in, from not having electricity to not having water, and the situation of the infrastructure, as well as how the youth and the children of the community are affected. Children do not have any place to play, as a soccer field is now a dumping site. They do not have a library because it has been vandalized. So it's really shocking, and also to see that from the municipal elections that was held in 2016, that circumstances have not bettered. It has actually worsened for these people and with the community.
Yeah, and Nosipho, one of the residents that you spoke about the councillor not being available, and the difference between the local government elections, the national government elections, is that with the national government elections, you speak about voting a government into party and rather into governance, and that party then decides who the minister would be, and sometimes you don't even get to see those ministers. But with the local government elections, you vote for somebody who supposedly lives in your area, and you're supposed to have that rapport, at least I'd like to believe, with that person. But that wasn't the case for these people.
Yes, Aldrin. In fact, residents pointed his home to me. They did indicate that he lived streets away from where we were, where they were protesting. They'd barricaded most of the roads. So I can imagine that those who are living in that area, if there was any emergency that would require, for instance, an ambulance to come in, they wouldn't have been able to receive any of that assistance. And it's just scary that the community felt as though the only way they can get him out of his house and have his attention was to barricade those roads and protest for as long as they did. So yes, it's quite sad that the councillor that they'd been waiting for about a week could not even come and listen to what some of their issues are, as well as in the other ward, in Ward 26, where it's spoken to Simpiwe, who told us similar issues with the councillor, that there was a bit of a standoff between himself as well as the councillor that's contesting currently. So there is quite an issue between the community, the people that the community trust to help them with these issues, as well as those that are in leadership right now.
Anka, you and Nosipho work on the planning desk of the SABC, forward planning as well as projects. And just for our viewers' sake as well, you know, when you watch TV and you see election manifestos being covered live on the SABC News channel, these two women are working behind the scenes to make sure that you can see all of those. But Anka, here's the thing about it, is that with the election manifestos is that there are those promises that are being made. And for some people, it's not the first time that those promises are being made, and that dichotomy that the residents face. Speak to us about that.
Like you said, it's not the first time these promises have been made, and people, residents, as we visit them and as we visit these communities, are picking up on these empty promises. And that's why we believe it's going to be one of the most unpredictable elections, because many people say that the government has had their chances and they're not going to vote. So a lot of promises has been made, but we will have to see if coming the 1st of November, if these promises will be fulfilled.
And what's your takeaway from that, Nosipho?
Definitely agree with Anka. I think the jig is up now for a lot of the parties that are currently leading some of these wards and these communities. People, frustration, Aldrin, is palpable. There's something, we were actually speaking about it when we were driving around on our tour, that something is different with the way people are feeling right now. I've seen the frustration in the past, but this time they're up to here.
they've had enough. But what we're not too sure of is what the outcome will be with the elections, because many of them are saying they will not be voting, they will not be casting their vote. And it varies between them not knowing who to vote for, or just simply the mistrust between themselves and any sort of leadership. I don't know if you heard in that insert where some of the community members were saying that the only person they trust is Simphiwe Kambule, who says he does not even want to be involved in politics. He has no interest in running for even being an independent candidate. He believes that he is capable of getting things done just as an ordinary citizen and community member within the area. So it's quite concerning that we're not too sure what the outcome will be on the 1st of November.
And that's what we're all waiting for. Nosipho Mncube as well as Uncle Nothnachel, thank you so much for your time. That's part of the conversation that we're having later on this evening, looking into the brand of politics and what determination and aspects do you take into consideration before deciding which political party or independent candidate to vote for. That's conversation we will be having with Glenn Mbani, and then also we will be in conversation as well with a brand expert who's going to speak to us about this particular issue when it comes to who you decide to vote for based on the brand message. That is Dr. Kuhle Zwakala, who will be joining us for that conversation. Let's take a look at what some of your comments have been on our new program and also on the question of the day. Okay, this one from Ntumeng, who says that for months, it's a nice way to put it. I personally know of people who have been without electricity for a clean 2 full years in Everton West. And Albert saying that electricity is not a free service. You buy it to use it. People are used for handouts, free RDP houses, free child grants, free 350 relief grants, free water and electricity. That's why the government is so broke. Mana was given once, not forever. People are so spoiled. And Presh saying, Mina, I won't even bother myself with that voting. These people, they are all the same. All they want is gain that few seats in parliament only so that they can feed their families. They don't care about our communities. And Imran saying that they made a big mistake in 1994. Shame poor people suffering because their own did them down since 1994. And remember that you can be part of the conversations using the hashtag elections360 or hashtag SABC News as we have a conversation building up to the local government elections right here on Elections360. And welcome back. This year's municipal elections have close to double the number of independent candidates compared to the 2016 polls. Over 1,000 candidates are hoping to give South Africans something new and fresh and hope that voters will favor them on the ballot. SABC News reporter Natasha Piri caught up with a man who is a leader in his town, but he is new to the political terrain.
A record number of 1,546 independent candidates are looking to change the political landscape of local governance as they'll be contesting political heavyweights come November the 1st. Initially, 1,718 independents had thrown their hats in the ring, but some of them pulled out. Generally, independents have not performed well in the previous elections. In 2016, 855 contested the elections. KwaZulu-Natal has the highest number of independent candidates with 330, followed by the Eastern Cape having 149, whilst the Northern Cape has the least amount of independents at 71.
May the good God open your spiritual understanding so that you can see the strength that is in the inside of you.
Meet lead pastor of Hope Restoration Ministries, Reverend Chris Matebula.
Even at this present moment, make a way for you where there is no way.
The 50-year-old, who was born in Tembisa, is one of many independent candidates who is vying for the top position in Ekurhuleni. He is part of an organization called Independent Citizens Movement in the Metro, which plans to contest all 112 wards. The pastor, who's been in the ministry for over 30 years of his life, says he wants to change the lives of the people and offer ethical and good governance.
As a pastor, I work with people every day, and I strongly believe that I have been trained to work with people. We care for people every day. So I will take my experience this time and use it into the public. So our strategy is totally different. We are not buying votes. We are not begging for votes. We are saying, here are the people who have done something in your community.
But do people on the ground believe in independence?
Yes, I would. Mainly based on what they have done for the community and what is their vision in the community. So somebody who's been involved.
I think it's time that we vote for people with integrity. We vote for people who know what they are taking the country to.
Most definitely I would vote for them, but provided they are grounded within the communities and they have been doing credible work.
With 2 weeks before the polls, the impact that independence will have remains to be seen. The hope for Pastor Mathebula post the November 1 polls is to take over the Ekurhuleni Metro Municipality and introduce ethical and professional leadership. Natasha Piri, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, then let's quickly look at some of those stats and what the data is telling us about independent candidates who will be vying for your vote come the 1st of November. And we now speak about the chances of independent candidates and what their prospects are. We are now joined by Glenn Mbani, also who has worked as a fixer on election campaigns across the continent. Glenn, good evening. Thank you so much for making time for us. Let's just quickly start here looking at the number of independent candidates, over 1,500. And as Natasha Piri said in her insert, the number has more than doubled. But what are the chances of independent candidates dislodging the brand power that you have with the big political parties already? Okay, we seem to have a problem there with the audio. We're going to try and just quickly re-establish that audio with the Glenn Mbani as we speak about the local government elections, but also going into the psyche of the voter. What exactly is it that the voter takes into consideration before you make that mark next to a candidate, whether it is an independent candidate or whether it is a political party candidate? And what we've noticed, of course, here in South Africa is that there is this real push that people go for political parties because the brand is well established, and not so much when it comes to independent candidates. There's also another conversation to be had about the messaging that is coming from political parties. Some political parties, if you look at some of their messaging, you get the impression that we are dealing here with the national elections. Like, for instance, if you look at the posters of the ANC, and the ANC says, vote the ANC, and the face that you see on those posters are posters, or the billboards rather, are pictures of the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa. Then on the other end also, you have the IFP, that instead of using their current leader to try and woo voters, they are going for the predecessor, the founder of the IFP, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who is the face of their local government election campaign. Let's quickly look at some of the tweets that you sent through in the meantime before we go back to Glenn Mbani. Malume saying on Twitter, thank you, I'm enjoying these new election shows. I hope after we're also going to get service delivery shows, follow up on all the promises on all the wards. That's actually quite a good one, service delivery shows. And colleague there, Rapelang, saying that your weekends will not be the same, demanding accountability from powers that be. Okay, we seem to have Glenn Mbani back on the line. Glenn, thank you so much again for joining us. I was asking you about the independent candidates, considering that you have about 1.5. So this is 1,500. Natasha Piri is saying that the number has doubled. But do they actually have the power to dislodge the brand power that has been built over years by political parties?
Thank you so much, Aldrin. It's a pleasure for me to be on your show, and good evening to your listeners. The first issue that we need to be able to understand is what are the factors that propel one or an individual to make a decision on who they are going to vote for. And in our view and in the data that we have, we've noticed that voting is not rational. Therefore, issues on policy, issues on performance of candidates and political parties is rarely a factor in terms of how a voter makes a decision. Everything that a voter makes is rather emotional. And therefore, if you look at the chances of independent candidates, with them having limited potential coming from their branding, because party identification, if you look at South Africa since 1994, is very strong, which basically means that individuals are attracted to political parties. We're talking about the ANC, the EFF, the DA, and other parties. So for independent candidates, they've got a very huge task to climb in terms of them being able to sell what they can offer as individuals, them being able to sell the policies. So I do not think that they have a higher likelihood of making any traction in this election.
Why is that the case when it comes to the voter here in South Africa that says that I'd rather identify with a political party, which would be a group of people, instead of an independent candidate who would be living down the road?
The challenge or the issue that is being raised, or the critique that is out there, is that there is the view that political parties have failed in terms of performing, and therefore they are not accountable. So it's better for a voter to go with an independent candidate. But there's also another challenge with independent candidates. Who are they accountable to? And how do you go on and deal with them when they get into office? Let's assume that we have got hung councils across the country. Voting or decision-making in council is done based on numbers. So if you look at the number of independent candidates, how many are being filled? How can they be able to influence unless they can be decision-makers within the council that we have? So regardless of the motivation and the idea that they want to disrupt this electoral process, our voters are not yet there. So in essence, it's less likely going to have any impact in this election.
Yeah. I've noticed, for instance, when I covered the elections in Kenya, the recent elections in Kenya, I think it was 2018. There you had a Jubilee Party that was set up as almost a coalition of different parties, with William Ruto running, of course, as the deputy and Uhuru Kenyatta as the presidential candidate. But Jubilee was almost like 3 years old. Why is it that people in Kenya were able to go for Jubilee Party, even though Jubilee was 3 years old, and then put Uhuru Kenyatta into the presidency?
So here we're talking of two issues. Here we're talking about independent candidates in South Africa. In Kenya, we're talking about the traction of coalition politics. Kenya has matured, just like Malawi, just like Zambia, just like Nigeria and Ghana, in terms of citizens being able to shift and being attached to coalition politics. Citizens are no longer attached to political parties as we have in our countries in this region. So therefore, citizens are able to shift in terms of going with either coalition that comes in. If you look at the upcoming Kenya elections, you would see that Ruto, who was previously in an alliance with Uhuru Kenyatta, now is going to be with the Democratic Party, and Uhuru Kenyatta is now going to be with Raila Odinga, which basically means that the society that is there, or the voter that is in those countries, they are now used to coalition politics. This is not the case in the South African context. One has to be able to move the politics in such an instance that political parties can be able to band together and be able to mobilize for support.
Yep.
And it's not the case in this context.
Are those alliances even possible here in South Africa, considering that you have the difference in terms of ideology, the EFF, the ANC, and the Democratic Alliance, if you look at the three big parties?
Alliances are possible in any election. And if you look at even the disposition of the political parties that we have here in South Africa, I don't rule out a possibility that an alliance can take place between the ANC and the EFF. I think their issues and their positions, they are in essence on the same side. If you look at maybe the positions that are being pushed by the DA and the Freedom Front Plus, I don't rule out an opportunity that they can have an alliance. It's very possible. Alliances are possible in any electoral context. And in South Africa, they are possible, but they need to be tested. And citizens need to be able to get to that point where they are able to say, you know what, we can go with an alliance.
Just quickly tell us about your predictions, not in terms of numbers, but just looking at the performance of political parties, and let's throw in independent candidates there in as well.
My prediction is that in this election, I think the EFF has been able to generate a lot of excitement in terms of people on the ground being excited with their campaign. They've run a very good campaign. I foresee greater challenges on the side of the ANC and the DA. The ANC is suffering a lot in terms of intra-party fighting. There are challenges within the ANC in terms of the candidate selection. So in essence, I see a lot of their base not going out to vote. The DA is also equally confronted with a similar challenge, where they are confronted with issues of the leadership within the party, issues of race within the party. So this election looks very favorable for the EFF. My prediction is that we are going to see a lot of coalitions in this election. We are going to see a lot of hung councils coming out of this election. And for independent candidates, I don't, in my view, looking at the numbers of independent candidates, I don't think that we have more than a third winning in this election.
Yeah. Is that because of the issue around the number of new registered voters that we have and their ability to sway the outcome of an election?
So in an election or in campaigning, you can win an election if you are able to energize your base. So in this instance, those who support you have to go out and vote. Local government elections across the continent, they rarely attract a majority of people going to vote. So in this election, we're likely going to have low voter turnout. Most of the election is going to be held on a Monday. It's most likely that people are going to take a very long weekend and take advantage of that. The second issue that we currently have is that with disgruntlement within the ANC and DA ranks, the voters within those political parties are less likely going to be able to go and vote. So we are going to have a high number coming out from the EFF. If you look at the numbers that we got from IEC in terms of the people that went on to register, about 1 million plus went on to register and 400,000 were first-time voters. We needed to have a large number of first-time voters coming out to vote for us to be able to have a disruption in this election. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So we are not going to have surprises coming out of independent candidates simply because the demographic of the voter did not necessarily change in this election.
Thank you so much for your time, Glenn Mpani there. And of course, as the argument goes, that it is the new voters as well as the undecided voters who decide on which way the electoral results will go. Let's look at some of the tweets that you sent through. This one coming from Dan saying, Election 360, it is known worldwide, the phenomenon that people's voices are silenced by free handouts here in South Africa. It comes in the form of e.g. housing, 350 rand grants, free electricity, etc., and other promises of better lives. ANC never educated people. Things are dependent on taxes. And this one from Peace of Mind saying that Aldrin, I see Reverend Mathebula is contesting. Please ask him why he didn't join the ACDP. Is he hungry for power? That's another conversation to have with the people like Reverend Mathebula. But also, does this also mean that Reverend Mathebula doesn't find any significance in joining a political party like the ACDP and is deciding to go the independent route? And Masande is saying that please ask that Dr. Kuhle Zwakala on how to reposition brands of these movements, that is the PAC, AZAPO, with rich history and ideals to backstream. And of course, Dr. Kuhle Zwakala will be joining us in the next few minutes to speak about the brand power of political parties. Okay, we're going to bring on Dr. Kuhle Zwakala to have that conversation about the power of the brand of political parties and whether or not, of course, independent candidates are able to disrupt that brand power that these well-established political parties have already put in place, but also taking into consideration the tweet that just came through. If you look at the likes of AZAPO, the likes of the PAC, very, very rich history that those two political parties have. And of course, remember that incident that took place place just a couple of days ago, where you had the ex-combatants of Azapo, of the PAC, as well as of the ANC. They're now speaking about the MKMVA. But why is it that the history and the resonance of these two political parties, the PAC as well as Azapo, is not resonating with the electorate? So those are some of the conversations that we'll be having this evening. Remember that you can be part of the conversations. Go onto our social media page. Please use the hashtag SABC News, and also use the hashtag elections360. And that is the question that we're asking you today. The question of the day, as we're focusing on the brand power of political parties. What is it that you take into consideration when a political party says, vote for us, with just 2 weeks left ahead of the polls? How different political parties, brands are able to persuade you to vote for them. Is service delivery one of those at all? Do you take that into consideration? But why is it that even though that you find that some people would say that this political party has not provided on the promises that they've given us, but that political party almost goes into these local government elections with an assurance that they will have the popular vote come the 1st of November? Some of the conversations that we are having this evening. With over 1,500 independent candidates registered for the local government elections, we are now asking the question about the branding of political parties ahead of the local government elections, and whether they are able to dislodge, this is now the independent candidates, able to dislodge the brand power that has been built by major political parties like the ANC, the EFF, as well as the Democratic Alliance. We are now joined by Dr. Kuhle Zwagala, who is an expert on branding, to have this conversation. Dr. Kuhle, thank you so much for making time for us. One of the questions that you posed in that video that you sent out earlier on was, what informs your political party brand choice? And when you look at how voters are voting, do you think that when it comes to the brand power of a political party or independent candidate, can we really evaluate it the same way that, let's say, we evaluate a consumer product, for instance?
Yeah, definitely we can, Aljan. First of all, good evening to yourself and your viewers. We can, because it's a political party that's contesting against an independent. However, first of all, I must say that this will certainly be a closely contested election. Look, you're dealing with the likes of your ANC, with a rich history and heritage. They're over 100 years old, right? And then you're dealing with a newcomer such as the EFF. Yes, they do not want to be seen as the breakaway party from the ANC, but they've certainly established over the past 5 or 6 years. So yes, they are on an equal footing as far as the voter is concerned. But now the voter will make their decisions based on both their rationality and their emotions. So emotionally, how do voters feel about the EFF, the ANC, and the likes, right? And these independents, do they have the history? Do we know these individuals? Can we really relate to them as the voter? Do we have that point of resonance with them? I'm not sure about that.
Mm-hmm. And then you now raised the issue of the EFF, for instance, but they have seemingly been able to do well in comparison to, there's a question that we got earlier on. The person was asking about how is it that the likes of Azapo as well as the PAC are not able to ride on the brand of that historical significance that they have in the struggle, in the fight against apartheid, for instance. And you compare their brand power to that of the EFF, far wide apart.
Look, I think it's the EFF they've certainly been very aggressive from a branding point of view, right? But you'll also realize that even the EFF themselves, they've considered that they find a point of resonance with what they call the working class. So when anything radical is needed, when anything, mass demonstrations, for instance, people look for EFF, right? But are people really in sync with the EFF? Can they really relate to the EFF? You remember 2016, the projections were saying EFF will get 19-20% of the votes, but I think they ended up with 10.5 or something like that. So from a brand point of view, they are currently very aggressive. Your earlier question about all the parties with rich ideologies like the PACs, the current voter does not necessarily look at the ideology, right? We're talking about local government election. Practically, service delivery-wise, what have you got to offer for us? And I think perhaps that's some of the questions that the independent parties can answer, especially from a performance point of view.
Mm-hmm. What about the brand power of the individual in the party, let's say the leader of the party versus the brand power of the party itself? We saw recently a poll coming out saying that President Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of the ANC, is more popular than the ANC itself.
Look, it's a very contentious issue, right? For instance, if you look at the likes of the EFF, you look at the brand Julius Malema and the EFF, there seems to be an overlap. Malema will be a bigger brand than the EFF. Similar, I mean, stances are being made about the ANC. If you look at the UDM, for instance, there's a very big brand persona behind the party itself. So it's a matter of a balance between do you then put the face as the bigger brand before the party brand, or do you put the logo of the brand? So it's really a balance between the two. Mm-hmm. In the case of Ramaphosa, he would be bigger than the brand, the ANC. However, he still needs to submit himself to ANC processes. So it's a balance of the two. And I think the DA, for instance, the DA's got a bigger brand than the face of the brand in John Steenhuisen, especially with their own incoherent identity as far as race is concerned. So this DA brand has been built over years, but now you've got this face that is almost unsellable. However, Steenhuisen would have a bigger brand behind himself, so therefore their performance may be okay, I suppose.
Sure. And then let's speak quickly about the independent candidates as well. So, of course, I guess an independent candidate's brand wouldn't be as big as a brand of an ANC, an EFF, a Democratic Alliance, and probably so forth, you know. But the independent candidate will be contesting in a single ward, unlike a political party that will be contesting various wards. What are some of the considerations that are being taken into if you also look at how we've seen now that there is an increase in the number of independent candidates contesting the local government elections, over 1.5?
You'll note, Aldrin, that largely the independents are people that are disgruntled from the ANC list process. Okay. Now we know the history of breakaway parties or people from the ANC, for instance. So I must fully concur with the previous commentator you had. I don't see the independent candidates making it in any way, right? Yes, one or two councillors, I don't know where, but I think from a brand point of view, I don't think they stand a chance. However, if you find a formation, for instance, the rationale behind this whole independence thing is that yes, we may disagree, yes, we may not have the same ideology, but we can certainly coexist, you know. So if you can find a formation of this independence house, so to speak, but comparative to the big brands, I don't see them, especially the ones that have broken away from the bigger parties, because they disgruntled. They wanted to be in local government, and so therefore they were dealt with from a list point of view. Yeah. I don't see them seeing the day in light. Yeah.
And just finally then, on service delivery, we played that packaged earlier on from people of Everton complaining about the services that have not been delivered, some saying since 1994 and others saying in the past 5 years. But what is it about a political party such as the ANC, for instance, that is able to secure a vote from a disgruntled voter, even though that voter knows that this particular political party has not delivered on their promises, but yet, again, come the local government elections, they'll be back there. They're marked next to that political party and their candidate.
Well, Aldrin, from a performance point of view, some have argued that, for instance, from a service delivery point of view, some have argued that the ANC is a victim of its own success, right? I think we can all agree that the ruling party they have delivered to some extent, right? However, they are now being used as a yardstick to know what is this service delivery thing? What can we expect from local government, right? So yes, you'll have these protests, and I think they've considered, and in approach, the ruling party is remorseful. Now, this affords an opportunity for the opposition parties to take advantage, because now the ground is fertile. And should the opposition parties not make inroads, this may be just their demise, which may consequently confirm the ANC brands, the strength of the ANC brand and its equity.
Dr. Kohle Zwakala, thank you so much for your time. And a bit later on, you will hear from Wanyana Wako Everton with her own party, Batung Party. But imagine this. Imagine Action SA's Herman Mashaba and the Democratic Alliance's John Steenhuisen racing against each other in 6-inch heels. A sight to be seen. This is what a small group of men who took part in this year's Men in Heels Walkathon in Sandton say they'd like to see. The walkathon was organized to raise awareness for October Breast Cancer Month. Our lifestyle reporter, Puleng Mulebati, brings us all the action that took place today.
After taking a year off due to the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, the Men in Heels Walkathon returned brighter and better, with men rocking heels in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It looks like walking in heels was a smooth mission, but are these heels rocking men ready to take to the polls on election day? The walk has officially begun. We are at the Breast Cancer Awareness with Men in Heel, and they are out walking me. Okay, I'm gonna let them walk fast because after all, this is a competition. Also, my heels are very, very high. Later on, we'll be talking to them about who are they voting for. Are they even voting? Are they even still confused about who to vote for? But we are here for a good cause. Hurry! For a short distance walk, they completed the mission like pros without even breaking a sweat. Impressive. I'm with Professor Michael Herbs from Cancer Association of South Africa. First, before I speak to the professor, let me just show you what he is wearing for today in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Professor, I mean, you look, this is an election season as well. Elections are underway. What are your thoughts about what's happening in South Africa in terms of elections?
Very problematic. I'll tell you, with the Zondo Commission having exposed so many people who are irresponsible, including politicians, it makes it very difficult for one to say, where will I draw my cross? But it's important. It is my responsibility to go out and vote. Because I cannot complain afterwards and say, this, that and the other is wrong if I didn't draw my cross.
Yeah.
So I will be drawing my cross, and I will have so many thoughts in the back of my mind until the moment I walk into that booth and I draw my cross.
Is this your first time in heels?
It's my first time. Yes.
How does it feel?
They are comfortable.
If it's comfortable, it's not a heel. You look very stylish today. According to you, who is the most stylish politician that you might be voting for, based on their style?
I think I want to go with Mashaba.
Okay, so he's going to show us if Herman Mashaba was to rock heels, how he would walk. Okay, let's stand back a little bit so that you can give me a good walk. So yeah, I'm not doing the walk. He's doing the walk Herman Mashaba style. All right, you're going to walk that way. Ne?
Towards the camera.
Yeah, you're going to pass it. All right, hurry. Yeah, bo. Ow! Herman Mashaba style. Yo. My goodness, your heel. Ooh. No matter the length of a heel, after a couple of hours, it definitely has to come off. So it did. If you could donate this pair of heels, which political party or a politician would you donate this pair to?
I'm not really sure.
Anything goes.
Maybe the DA, just to snazz it up a bit.
You feel like John Steenhuisen could just Rock it.
I think he could have tried. Yes.
It's a challenge, John. If you can rock this hill, we are totally voting for you.
Yes, definitely.
Walking for a good cause and doing it with style, these men are more than ready to take to the polls on election day. See you then, gents.
And as promised, we have the leader of Batung Party, Magauta. Hello. Tell us about the party.
Batung, Aldrin. Ema pele ko jotsa pele hore ke mang nna.
Yeah.
A ke re nna mo ke tswang batho ba mpitsa ka Magauta.
Yes.
Ha ba mpona ba re ke yo Magauta ngwanyana a etsang nonsense. Ne? So batho ba nrata ba nkitse mo ke dulang hore ke ntho fela eso. So since here batho ba nrata jalo ba itse ha ba mpona ba bona hore nna ka kgona ho ba representa.
Yes.
Ne? A ke ro mpona le wena ke represent.
Yes.
Ke re Bathong. So party ya rona he ebitswa ka hore Bathong.
What do you promise?
Because bon lebitso la explainer hore re promise eng rona ska batho ba Bathong. Kore everything re etsang ne how e bona o tlo re Bathong a ke re o surprised hore party ena e etsa nonsense ne ha e tshwane di party tse promisang batho dintlo di eng mara ha re bone next.
Yes.
Kore mo ho Bathong ha le joina Bathong le votela Magauta everything le bonang mo lefatsheng ha le bona fela le tlo re Bathong re tjena
Bathong re
etsa nonsense.
Re etsa nonsense ka
Bathong.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is Magauta. But I need to just quickly find out though, can Magauta sing?
Nah.
Give us a struggle song there.
Hey lang wena. Hey Erikibon. Hi. Umzabalazo. Hi Magauta. Hi. Oh my guess. Hi Magauta. How. Oh yetsa nonsense. Hi. How train Magauta. Ah, ka o jwetsa ka tsentse next bona. Ke tjena ha ke bua nonsense ba nkitse mo ke dula ke tsamaya ka tlasa lefatshe ska how train. That's why ba mpitsa how train Magolete.
And that is Magauta of Batung Party. Is that a political party that you have any confidence in? Batung, thank you so much for watching
Viva
Election
Batung,
360 Degrees. This was our first show. Thank you so much for giving us your ears as well as your eyes. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.